broadcast is actually upcoming stream.
So now if I go here, start now.
Yeah, yeah, you're live.
She's going to have to show me and find out if I'm live or not, if it's working. So hopefully she sees it. Everybody sees it. How do I set the space to where like everybody can go ahead and just join in. So, I went ahead and set the space up to where like everybody could just join in and they can go ahead and just add themselves as a speaker. Now I did, Casey, it should be able to add people automatically. Yeah. Let me see. My buddy Josh, somehow he's able to produce everything. I really have a lot of respect for people who are able to produce the show, talk on the show, all of that at the same time. I don't know how they do it. I really got to learn that because this guy, Josh Reed, he's able to do all the production, multiple things, and run the show all live at the same time. I'm like, guy's a genius to me. It's amazing. So, looks like we're live. So thanks a lot, Harris. You can stay on if you want to, but you don't have to. I appreciate you helping me get set up. So, yeah, thank you kindly. Very, very much appreciative. So, yeah. So anyways, tonight, dude, what's up, everybody? We're going to do a live space and it's Miss Casey Nicole's birthday. Casey, would you mind and being so kind if you're on there? Let me see if I think you're in. How are you?
Doing great. Looking forward to the space.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful you threw that in there. That's really kind of you. Cool. I'll keep an eye on the comments on YouTube.
Yeah, I want to see if it's live. So that'd be great. I think I tried to go live on there so see if it worked. Harris was just getting me set up on there. It's a little bit confusing with this OBS. So we'll, but yeah, tonight there's just like so many freaking exciting things happening, in the space right now. And while it looks terrible, it looks like the world's ending, everybody's talking about all these problems, but nobody's talking about the solution. And I think people who are going to be tuning in tonight, they already know the solution. But I had a meeting today with a guy who was a notary. And I went ahead and literally, I actually, a second time I met with him. He's notarizing documents for me online out in Texas, and I'm in California, but it's a remote notary. So, he sees my mic and he says, "Oh, are you doing a show, or are you a speaker?" I'm like, "Well, kind of." I mean, I told him, I was like, "Well, yeah, kind of. I guess I am." Yeah. So I told him about my YouTube channel and I said, "You could check it out." And he said, "What do you talk about?" And I started trying to explain Bitcoin to him. And then, I went over the first meeting, but then all of a sudden, that was yesterday. Then today we met again. He's like, "Oh, I checked out your YouTube channel. Thanks a lot. I watched some of your videos." And I said, "Okay, thanks." I said, the problem that people are having is they don't understand what's going on. And there's so much confusion in Bitcoin and the whole space right now. And I said, and I let him know, I said, did you know Bitcoin was hijacked in 2017? He's like, I'm not sure, I said, Bitcoin was hijacked. He's like, what? I was like, so that BTC you're holding, it's not the same thing as it was in the early days. And he's like, what? I said, yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same thing. He was shocked. He said, wait. He stopped me. He's like, wait a second. I said, yeah, if you want to keep the BTC you have right now, you might as well just keep supporting the banks, keep supporting the Fed, keep supporting the great way you have it now. And if you want to give all your control over to them, keep buying BTC, keep supporting it. I said, if you want freedom, if you want what they don't want you to have, you have to really do the research and look and do the hard fight and figure it out on your own because it's there, but the original Bitcoin's still alive. And he's like, basically like, what's the difference? I'm like, well, think about it. In the paper, it said peer-to-peer electronic cash. Now, what do you have? You've got, he didn't really know. He's like, well, you got numbers are going up. Yeah, the numbers are going up. That's good. And I hope you made a lot of money if you did do it. But in the long run, we have like an AI that's coming over. Everybody's going into AI, all this new technology that's coming out. In order to make it work, we have to have cash. We have to have a way to transact cheaply, fast, scalable. How are we going to do that? It's got to be on Bitcoin. There's no other way. This is the fastest, cheapest, most scalable way to do it. And it was just a real eye-opening talk that we had. But let's do it. Casey, over to you. I just opened up the space, so I did invite I invited a few people, but let's just go with it, and I wanted to, go with it and see where it goes. So happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much again. I really think that was super kind of you to throw that in there. Dealing with some altitude sickness here in Colorado. It feels like I got a massive hangover when I haven't touched any alcohol, but still having a great time and looking forward to this conversation, because I do feel that we are in for some really hard times for all these people that have been putting a lot of their life savings and selling off their assets and things that they have now, like Michael Saylor's been telling them to do, to get into this space. And it's going to be just an absolute devastating bloodbath for a lot of people's families when this all comes to fruition. So thanks for trying to set some of that information straight here in this call tonight.
The notary today, he said, so is the information getting out there? Like, are people finding out about this? I said, absolutely not. No. I said, Casey Nicole, she got banned and censored off of X for talking about it. You thought censorship was over? No. Oh no, it's only getting more. She got her account shut down, right? Account completely closed.
Well, I've appealed it. It says it's permanently in read-only mode, but we'll see if they let me out of Twitter jail. But yeah, it's very upsetting because my analytics were definitely going up. I was definitely starting to get more traction and get the message out there. And it's like just rug pull after rug pull in this space. And it can be devastating to people's lives. I'm a single mom trying to build a business, so it's crazy.
Let's keep it going. Now, what I wanted to talk about today, which is really exciting, is about like actually utility, like some of the things that are you showed me yesterday, which I wanted to use more of. And I saw John Wayne on here. I don't know is he still there? But he had texted me Bitcoin before, and so have other people. And so I finally set up a handle. You showed me how to do it last night, and I got it, and it works. Like, okay, the whole wallet thing is hard for me. I'm just going to perceive, most people who are not tech people, it just takes time. It's not impossible. It just takes time. It's a new thing to learn. So it's hard to learn wallets, new tech, all this new stuff. But a text message I know how to use. And everybody does. And so what you did is how did you do that? Can you explain the Bitcoin text, how it works?
It just like sending a regular text message, text SMS to SMS. And it's been the easiest way for me to show people how to use peer-to-peer cash recently. I've onboarded quite a few people just using that by just sending them a penny. And obviously there's no other financial payment system that's capable of that right now. So their eyes get real big and they're like, tell me more. So it's the best foot in the door conversation starter that I have found so far. And so that's how I got to meet people interested and stuff like that. But it really is pretty easy to just send the money, and then they'll just have to reply with the word start, and it gives a list of commands. And then you follow the commands to deposit more into your wallet or buy your handle, things like that. And it's obviously it was a little more challenging for you because you have an Android. But for iPhone, I think the interface looks so much better. So yeah, it's as long as you know how to take money from or BSV from like a Rock wallet or a Handcash or something and fund your
So I think what you did. Sorry to interrupt. I think what you did was did you send me to a website? How did it start?
No, I just said, tell me your phone number while we were on the phone together, and I hit send 0.01 and entered your phone number, and it instantly sent you a penny.
Right.
That's all I had to do.
You said, what's your phone number? I gave it to you. Then you text in send 0.001 to that number, and it sent it to me, and I got it, and I saw it on the freaking. If I saw it on the
yeah, it comes through with the What's on Chain link too.
What's on Chain? Yep, I saw it with What's on Chain. So then I went over to my other wallets, and I started just, I started putting a bunch of Bitcoin in there, so now there's a lot in there. Well, a good amount in there, so it's usable now, that wallet.
Well, and you don't need KYC. You don't need to, have them download a wallet or an app or anything. So that's another big hurdle that is seamless onboarding, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. Well, I wanted to be able to, like that guy I met today on this notary meeting. I really wish I had a little more time to do that with him. Hey man, I want to just send you 1 Bitcoin right now. I mean, imagine doing that. Like you make someone's day,
I did. I sent the 55 Coyote guy an entire Bitcoin, just because I really love what they're doing with their farm and everything. So I think I sent him $30 to get started. That gave him enough to buy his $3 handle. So now, if you guys want to poke him again, tell him we want to meet. Send him at 55 Coyote some text BSV micropayments just to remind him we're here.
So, all right. So let's just set the frame, like some ideas. Now, this is like open forum, so I'm not like trying to go and do an agenda here, but so anybody can jump up. I'm really open on this, but I wanted to share some of the cool stuff that I've seen. Some of the things I text you, Casey, was recently there was one Calgoon. Let me share my screen. Now, you probably can't see my screen, but YouTube can. There's a new Calgoon is the X account. And he's got a new, I don't know if it's him or if it's someone else, but there's a Metanet desktop, or is it a Metanet? Do you know about this? Metanet browser? Do you know about it, Casey?
I started to watch that presentation he put out a while ago but I didn't finish it yet. So
apparently it's a big deal, and it looks like it's a really big deal. It's a new use of the Metanet, and you're utilizing Bitcoin in its pure original design. These are tools that are like probably world-changing tools that once we understand what the heck they're doing, how it works. I mean, but this is like the early days of basically it's the early days of Bitcoin. That's what's happening. Because Bitcoin was hijacked in the last, 8 years, has been completely derailed. Everything's been fighting in court, fighting everybody. Everybody's fighting each other. Finally, the pressure's off. They got Bitcoin banned off every exchange, and now they got rid of Satoshi, so they think. And so now, in their opinion, it's over, So they're moved on to doing their financial instruments now. And now we finally just have the early days of Bitcoin. It feels like things like this are happening. And Babbage, that is one definitely really good one. What was another one you showed me? Some badass freaking tech that is out right now. If anybody has any ideas, I mean, we had some, I saw some incredible ones that, I know Dan has the text BSV. That's the one that we just talked about here. He's got some other ones. Oh, what's the one that Roy's doing? Casey? What is Roy doing?
He's building all kinds of stuff. Too many to list. I was hoping he could join us tonight and chat about some of them, but he's basically just gifting the community here with all kinds of Money Button 2.0 and another version of Terranode and all kinds of different projects that...
Dude, it looks insane.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is taking action. Apparently there's Electrum SV wallet. I mean, there's 20 different projects that he's working on right now at once.
I will tell you, I have some inside knowledge on something. So I asked him, I said, how do we build a version of an external hard drive without needing the device on Bitcoin? So when I want to get all the pictures and videos off my phone, I can just upload them to the blockchain instead of needing to do it to iTunes or the cloud or any of that crap. So he is building a version of that, and he is calling it the Rebel Wallet.
The Rebel Wallet. The banned, the censored Rebel Wallet.
Named after me. I'm so excited and grateful. So that's freaking awesome.
Nice. Yeah, that is awesome. Good. Well, you're a rebel. You got your freaking account shut down for talking about the too much truth. So it's, I thought they were done doing that. Apparently X is still censoring people. So one thing that is also important, it's somewhat political, but is what's going on with the White House right now. And I want to just say that I think, in my opinion, right now, the White House knows exactly what's going on with the Bitcoin space. If you read that report and you see what I think Bo Hines is the guy behind it, and in Bo Hines' writings, which he's got an attorney and other people, Stephen Miller, that's also been working on it. But with his with the report, he's referencing the CoinGeek. He's referencing CoinGeek, and he's referencing that there's a video in there of Craig Satoshi Wright at the freaking, the Vietnam conference in 2019. If you think that's by accident, then, you might want to go and get your head checked. These types of things and big projects like this from the White House are not just accidental. All right. So just be mindful. There's no coincidence here. This is a giant operation. Yeah. Bo Hines is probably the head and the front of the operation and what's going on, but he has a huge team assisting him with it. And they're carefully putting that report together, every single thing. What I will say I liked about it the most was that it seemed very neutral. It doesn't say that one way is best. It just gives a very neutral report opinion of going forward. And look, let the best man win. Let the best blockchain win, the most legal, the most compliant, the most fast, the best technology, the one that does it, the Congress embraces, let it win. And it does reference the Fidelity report, and Fidelity had that other, it talked about how Bitcoin Gold and Bitcoin Cash were great projects from the original Bitcoin. It didn't even mention anything else. And so that's like the other side of the narrative. And so I appreciate him putting that in there as a reference, because it's showing the other side, the other narrative as well. But he didn't leave everything out. He did not leave the entire Satoshi story out at all. The whole report was a lot about Satoshi referencing and the white paper and Satoshi's scaling and cash, peer-to-peer cash, peer-to-peer electronic cash. One of the things that I'm hearing right now from Josh, I follow him, Josh Reed, I follow him on X. These influencers are really, in a way, they're skeptical and they're a little bit scared right now, in a way, because they think that AI is coming in, and they just don't talk about, other than like a Bill of Rights coming out, like an Internet Bill of Rights, stopping these AIs. How do we control this stuff? There really isn't any technological way to do it that they know about, because they don't understand Bitcoin yet. But once they start to understand Bitcoin, they're going to realize that it's the one way we can control this whole thing. That I wish I had the knowledge, maybe if somebody does, to read that Substack report that Craig Wright had written about AI and the integration with Bitcoin. And it's super deep. It's a really important topic. That topic of understanding how to integrate Bitcoin with AI. It's something that we really got to learn and talk about. I can't think that's a more important topic. Okay, we got some people on stage. Class, Johnny Lee Cash, you're up, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I just, when you guys were talking about that wallet, about the text, I didn't hear you mention exactly what it was, but I found it after this went on for a little bit, so I'm checking it out now. Yeah,
it's just simple. Like even a normie like me, who, I can use the tech, but at the same time, I just choose to try to make it easy if I can. And I just she just sent me the text last night, and I said, there it is, boom. I responded with balance, got the balance. I sent it to her. She walked me through it. All I did was get her phone number. I put 001 on there. It went to her. I saw it on chain. I said, wow, there it is. Right there.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool.
Yeah, with just a text. And then the wallet, apparently, if you want the wallet, and I don't care for the wallet personally. She told me you can go and download it, but I don't need a wallet right now for that. You can get it, but for me, I just want to use it for text. Easy, simple. That's good enough for me.
My only criticism is I think they changed the branding too fast to text money when money isn't even incorporated in it yet. You're still texting BSV, not money. So it's a little confusing, but it still works. And for the person that doesn't know anything that you're just texting a penny to, they don't know about the branding and the Twitter page and all that acquisition. So it's not a big deal to them. But I do think that was a little too soon for.
Dude, shout out to Harbin and those guys to get that together. Yeah, hopefully they do. But that's out of our control. So let's hope that they get that right. The tech's working good, and can I ask you, Johnny Lee Cash, about this post? I was it last night or the night before? I heard you on a space. I don't know if it was with Raphael and some other people, and you were talking about this video that Satoshi put out. I posted it before, and it was this Russian video. You've got it pinned to your profile. It seemed like it really inspired you to help you kind of learn more about the importance of Bitcoin. And can you touch base on that a little bit about how it inspired you?
Yeah, it just blew my. I've been following that guy Satoshi TV has a YouTube channel, and I've been watching that channel for years, but I had not up to that point seen a video of him just talking to somebody, like breaking the history of finance, banking, how they've got this system has such a hold on the world, and he just eloquently broke it down on like how BSV specifically just pulls the rug out from underneath those guys. And if anybody hasn't seen that video, that one that's pinned to my profile, that you, Gavin, I don't know if it was a YouTube. I think it was a YouTube video of yours that I watched that you had recommended that. And if you guys haven't seen that video, it's like from A to Z, breaks every single thing down, like the banking system, how it works, the difference between money and fiat or currency. And I really think that it's crucial to understand the difference between currency and money, and how Bitcoin SV is money, but more importantly, why it will be valuable. So I just recommend that video. It was a total light bulb being turned on in my mind, just of because I'm trying to run around and connect all these dots, trying to figure out this thing that is BSV, because it's so huge and massive, and it has such the ability, the power it has to like change the world and just pull the rug out from underneath these evil forces that are working against humanity. And I'm trying to understand it, but like when I watched this video, it was like, oh, now I get it. It just connected all of these little dots, and there's also another good documentary, Money Masters. You can find it on YouTube. I think it's Bill Still is the guy who did it. It's a documentary from 1996 that explains, the money system and stuff. And when you connect these two things together, it's just a mega light bulb that goes off in your head that really helps you understand how important BSV is and how it will have the ability to change the world for the better.
So it seems like this is rather like a little bit of a newer adventure for you, like more recent. Like, what's your story?
No, I've actually been into Bitcoin for a while. I was, I think it was trading for around, I don't know, $250 or something like that. Trying to wrap my mind around it. Then I'd watched this video of this. I just happened upon this video on YouTube about this guy who was taking his entire life savings of like, I think it was 160 grand and putting it all on this USB drive. And I was like, what the heck is this guy talking about? And so I've kind of just back and forth, come in and out and in and out and in and out of the space. And then, so I was invested in Bitcoin. And then I got on, found the exchanges, that whole thing, and I invested in BNB. This was before Binance
Yeah. When
switched
BNB
away
started.
from being. There was actually a time when Binance, before Binance US, you could just go on there and like
Yeah,
change.
it was crazy, man. Everybody, I used to have a little trading group back in those days, like back when, I mean, Casey, she knew about it, like the JSTIP 4 days, and there was a little trading group with all those
Yeah,
people. Everybody used that Binance. It was unbelievable. All of us in the
yeah.
U.S. It was great. It was so fast and incredibly open and free.
And I came across a YouTube video where the guy CZ, who was the head of it, or I believe he still is, was talking about how he wasn't going to let these crap coins into his exchange, and like he was just breaking things down, kind of in like this way of like it wanted to be like an honest, no, I guess pump or dump, nonsense that if you wanted to put your coin on it, then it had to go through this review process, that whole situation. And I was like, oh, this guy kind of, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I can, I feel like I have a radar to, kind of like navigate through baloney, you know what I mean? And so he was talking about that, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll go check this Binance thing out, And at that time, I think Binance coin was like $5 or $10 or something like that. And so I got into that. I wasn't even sure what an ERC, I think it's what, 20 or Ethereum coin was. And I was like, oh, well, I like this guy. I like the way he seems to be talking about how he's going to run his exchange, So I was into that for a little while. And then, through coming back into, going and coming back into the space, I started hearing about, Bitcoin SV and how it, reinstated the big blocks and microtransactions, at a fraction of a penny and all this other stuff. And I was like, holy cow, this really sounds, powerful. But I wasn't connecting the dots at that point in time on like how it could change the world, if you know what I mean. Like with finance and the difference between currency and money and, peer-to-peer cash and that whole thing. And so I was like, this sounds like a really cool thing. So I started getting into the BSV space from there. Kind of, grasping what was going on, but it really wasn't until I watched this video from Satoshi that when he broke down the history of finance and I had watched that Money Masters documentary about how the Rothschilds, and that whole thing, how they create money out of nothing, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, all this other stuff. And I was like, well, maybe this could be, and I hear talks of like, this could be the answer to that. But I was really still trying to like get it, you know what I mean? Like I was just trying to get all the ducks in a row from like, this is the answer, and this is the reason why it's the answer. And when I watched that video that you had recommended, it was just a huge eye opener. So anytime I get to go ahead.
So how, like, this is a really deep topic, and it can be extremely complicated.
Yeah.
So you have a simple way of you have an easy way of maybe explaining things and it sounds like in a very simple way. If you can help me understand and help the audience understand, why does it change? How does it change the world? How does it give freedom back? I mean, why is it so world changing and from what you understand, from what you watched?
The power of the BSV network, especially when Teranode drops, is what's going to give the BSV the value, and it's going to turn it into the certificate of value, much like gold. You used to have this dollar, and it was a certificate that you had that like you could exchange for gold, and that's what made the dollar before we went off the standard, like or the gold standard. That's what made it money, because it wasn't printed from nothing. It wasn't a debt-based system. And so the way BSV and somebody chime in here if I'm sort of missing it, but the goal. So take BSV as the dollar back then, and BSV network is the value, which is like the gold. And the reason why BSV network and your keys being the BSV to that network will be so valuable is because you'll be able to do anything on that network. You'll be able to control and monetize not only yourself and your content, but you won't be censored. You can't be kicked off of anything. And so it's like BSV takes the place of the dollar that was backed up by the gold standard. And the network, because of everything that you'll be able to do on that network, is what is the gold portion of it. And it's the BSV is their certificate or the keys to the network. And anybody that wants to interact with the network, if they want to print a token, if they want to make an app, if they want to make a social media site, if they want to monetize their small business, or connect their small business to it, they have they have to have the BSV coin. And so it can't be printed out of nothing. It can't be attached to debt. It'll give everybody their basically the rights to their property and the value that they bring into the world, and they will own it. I guess that's the best way and that I can describe it. And so because you have these keys to this unbelievably valuable network, that you'll have this money that isn't controlled by a central bank or governments or anything, that you can spend freely across the world, and so people will build things, people will, put their businesses on it, this, that, and the other. And that'll get us out of this system of debt, as currency, I guess. I hope
that's really good. That's a really good answer. Very well said and very articulate, detailed, very patient, very highly advanced on how you explained it. Now let me, we got a question. KP Dad says, will Bitcoin SV be a part of the restructuring of the Fed? So let me touch base on that for a moment, and we'll open up. So to kind of compliment on what you're saying about like the new money system. So we have this problem right now where so we're at like a turning point, because you got two sides. You got the good and the evil. We can all agree there's good and evil. We got the good side they're trying to bring forward. Let's just assume there's a good side that's trying to bring forward more freedom for humanity with these stable coins and potentially the Bitcoin ledger. But then you got the other side. What they want to do is they want to create control for everything. And they want to backdoor the CBDCs through the stable coin. Figure they want to have a way to, let's say, create JP Morgan coin, and JP Morgan coin, well, you got to buy JP Morgan coin to get the lower rate on your mortgage. And if you buy JP Morgan coin, it's going to be a great rate. And guess what? We'll help you manage your account for you, and we'll help allocate all your funds and transactions for you. So that way you get $20 for food, $100 for gas, $50 for your movie tickets, and you'll have a nice way to manage your funds with JP Morgan coin. So they're going to have the risk of that. That's also, a real world risk that they want to do. But by having everything go into the original Bitcoin ledger, they can potentially do that and make their own coin, I guess, on the ledger with their own stable coin. I mean, but it's going to be a transparent ledger. They won't be able to hide what they do. So if they do some sort of shady activity, hey, it's going to be for everyone to see, and there'll be a record of it. There won't be any way to hide the bad actors. And it's going to be a lot less likely to commit bad acting. When it's out in the open, it's less likely. Doesn't prevent everybody, but it's less likely to have bad actors. And to answer your question for KB Dad, I want to ask what other people think about it. But I mean, is it going to be part of the restructuring of the Fed? The best part is that it's up to the free market. It's up to Congress and the people. That report doesn't say that it has to be or should. It presents the idea, and it presents a fair, reasonable opportunity for everyone, for the market to decide. I think we know here that let the best man win. And if you're the best, fastest, cheapest, most legal, most compliant, most scalable, well, it's likely going to be embraced. They're not shunning it, that's for sure. They're definitely open to it. That was what I read in the report. It's citing that CoinGeek, citing the Satoshi interview video there in 2019. I mean, that tells me that they're open. It's a best man. Let the best man win. That's my answer. What do you think, class Johnny Lee Cash?
Well, the way that and this is just the way I'm kind of trying to, the conclusion that I'm, kind of not trying to come to, but realizing is, so let's just say that they put a Fed token, all this nonsense on the BSV network. Well, that's just one thing of billions of things that will be on the BSV network. And so, yes, let's just say they try to put in this system, create these tokens, these real IDs or whatever that that you have to log into. But that would it's on there. But like, if the BSV has the money value, the money value, the attached to the certificate or the keys to the network, the BSV network, I don't see why we couldn't just not participate in it. We have BSV. We have keys to the network for ourselves, and we can use that value, our keys to the network through our BSV to do other things. Like we can support local farmers, as Casey and that farm that she was talking about. We can use it we should be able to use it to buy vehicles. We should be able to use it to buy food, because it's on the same network. But just because they create a token on the network doesn't mean that that's what the network is, I guess is what I'm kind of fathoming. You know what I mean? Like it's one thing out of billions of things that BSV and the Teranode, because the Teranode is going to allow for the world to put everything on the BSV network, on the blockchain. And so I just feel like, they can create this little separate entity and try to get people to, opt into it or this, that, and the other. But if you have BSV, if you have your own coin, which is different from a token, that's another thing to understand the difference between, if people don't already understand the difference between what a token is and what a coin is. Then we can use our coins on other things. We can opt out of that nonsense system.
Yeah,
and
that's
use,
right. That's the key. We can opt out through our own what we transact in. See, that's the power. They're going to want us to use JP Morgan coin, Bank of America coin. This is where we're going, because the U.S. just passed this new law with the Stablecoin Act, and that's where the bankers are. What they're going to want us to do. Well, are you going to really? It's for us. Are you going to embrace and say, you know what? I'll just use the JP Morgan coin, and I'll just have everything I do tracked and surrendered to them, and they'll control my life. That's really up to the people.
Well, if I understand it correctly, what they would have to do is make a token.
Yeah.
If they want to use the BSV network, they're going to have to create a token, and that's completely different than.
Well, let me explain. Let me give an example of a token. I want to go to Gregory. I really am excited to hear from him in a second. But before I do, this is something that's really important to understand. And I was talking with Casey last night. Think about how Ethereum worked. Well, when I first got introduced to this stuff, it was Ethereum. I actually came in with Ethereum, not with Bitcoin. And so I learned Ethereum from scratch. That was my, embracing this. So it was 2016. Juan, my buddy at the water store, he taught me all about it. We sat down. He showed me how to buy it. And I said, okay, so I got to buy Ethereum, and then I can buy the shit coins. He's like, yeah, you can buy the ICO shit coins once you have the. And I said, okay. I was like, all right, I think I get it. So because Ethereum has the gas, it's the network. That's really what Bitcoin is, right? With money, think about it. Money, the stable coin, you have to have Bitcoin. I don't know. Do you have to have Bitcoin to use money? I think you do. I don't know if you do or not. I don't think you do. Actually, no, you don't. It doesn't require gas, but it's built on there. So that would be a token, money. That's a token.
Correct.
Yeah. That's an example, right?
Yeah. So that, they can create this, they can create this token on the network, but a token isn't a key isn't a key to the BSV network. Like you can't take a token and create an app. You can't take a token and write to the blockchain.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? The token itself is a record on the blockchain.
Yeah.
So basically, and so they can create these tokens and create these systems that support these tokens. But if we have the Bitcoin coin, we also have access to the Bitcoin. We have access to the Bitcoin network. We can write to the block. We can create tokens. We can put our businesses and everything on there. And we can totally, even though they're on the BSV network, we can opt out of that because we have our own keys to the network and we can do our own thing on the network. And that's that kind of goes, that's the beauty of what goes back to what you're saying. It's let the best idea win. You know what I'm saying? And I think that most people want to be free. Most people don't want to be told what to do. Most people don't want to be controlled, and if we can shed light on this whole token versus keys to the, kingdom, so to speak, thing, then that further gives people power to make a better, more informed choice.
Yep. Peer-to-peer cash. Gregory, I'm blown away. Gregory Stock, you're followed by Truth Machine. This guy he is rigid. He doesn't just follow people for fun. So this guy is very strict. I got respect for you, man. Who can you unmute and say hello, Gregory? If you can, great. We'd love to hear from you. Well, when you can, chime in. I see you up on stage. So, and I see Vince Mowert, Jay Paps. I saw Todd on there last night, man. I'd love to have you guys come up if you want. You're welcome to it. It's an open mic. I think anybody can join if you just automatically join, right? Casey does. Yeah, anybody can join. So you're welcome to come up. You're invited. What about Casey Nicole? It's your birthday.
Yeah, I actually have a question. It's a little bit off topic, but I've been really looking into the XPR network as well. And speaking about like these new financial rails and everything, the FedNow instant payment system that's operated by the Federal Reserve is not using XPR, but it is using Metal blockchain, which is part of the Metallicus ecosystem that also includes Proton XPR. And that integrates with the FedNow. So that's more of like a provider for banks and institutions on its network for instant payment rails and everything. But I just am very curious to see how the conversation plays out, because they're definitely moving forward with, more of our banking institutions adopting this technology. It seems like a lot faster than anything I'm seeing with BSV. So do you guys know anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, Metallicus is definitely highly integrated inside the Fed already, and they've already worked with a bunch of credit unions. I believe the credit union I have is already using and approved Metallicus. So Metallicus is the project that, what's his name, has been working on for like 12 years. It's a long-term thing. It's not an overnight
Marshall
thing.
Hayner.
Yeah, Marshall Hayner. That's right.
That's
the Marshall Hayner, and he's also the same guy that was there. Now I don't have proof of this, but he's also the same guy when Elon Musk was coming through the building at the Twitter, and he said when he bought Twitter, and he said he kicked out Sloppy Jack Dorsey, and he had the toilet, right? He comes in there with a meme, and there's that guy in the back. That's Marshall Hayner. That's Elon's buddy. No doubt those guys are for sure friends. I'm pretty it looked just like him when you really zoom in. Look, that was Marshall Hayner. That was a staged event, that they did. So, he's had some posts. If you look at them, they definitely look like they're potentially doing something. I tell people, Bitcoin, you're probably not going to get rich quick with Bitcoin SV. I always tell people that. So don't expect that. Work hard, and build stuff. It's not going to be, I hope people know that, right? You're not going to get rich quick. You might get, I don't know. That other network, like you said, you're going to get rich quick off of it. I don't think you'll get rich quick.
You can buy XPR under a penny. It's way under a penny right now. And that's the only other thing I've been buying. And it has gone up a lot recently.
Yeah. I know Vince was the one that told me a lot about it. Vince, I see him on the call. Whoever's requesting, Adam, Casey, I thought it was an open mic, but I guess people have to request. So feel free to approve them. Who's that? How do I go back to my?
Todd, you're welcome.
Todd. Nice.
Yeah, come on up.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Todd from Down Under. I listened to you last night when I was falling asleep. You were on with Raf and with those other guys, and you guys were really going deep on you were on a roll, and then really on a roll, and then they kind of cut you off. You never got to finish your point after the other guy. He said he had a question about why does it actually scale? Bitcoin doesn't work, and then you never got to make your point. It was really, I was kind of disappointed.
It was a shame.
It was a shame. I was like, oh man, you never even got to respond. I was like, oh man, that was a bummer. So I was looking forward to hearing your point. So maybe maybe you can talk about what you were trying to make a point with, because what was the question, and what was the question that they asked you, and then
it's just along the lines of sort of like digital identity, IoT, this sort of biological cybernetic fusion or something like that. And I was saying, I think that's it's kind of inevitable, in some respects, and you want to make sure that it's built on just a substrate that's empowers the individual to not be a slave, essentially. And there's probably a couple of ways you can implement it. And one, there's probably a spectrum, and some would be like a totalitarian nightmare, and another would be like a technological just evolution where the individual gets their maximum protections at law, their maximum protections of privacy, all their rights are honored. They can have better privacy than they have now, but they can, if they want, they can, fuse with a machine as well. But the machine will have, sort of like permissions structure and its logs and record keeping, and all that should be auditable. So I think that a lot of people get into this fear paradigm and they start freaking out about the possibility of that. But it may well be likely that there isn't really this distinction between natural and unnatural. And, we've already embraced technology to a very high degree, and a lot of it's been to our detriment, but that's more because of the misaligned incentives and the moral hazard of the owners of the technology, rather than it is the technology itself. There's been immense value generated through Facebook. It's been great to be able to keep in touch with people that you met years ago. You can run your business through it, all these things, but they also have this perverse incentive to hijack your dopamine, keep you on the platform because it's an advertising based model. So just because you don't like, who's implementing a technology, doesn't mean that the core networking stack or the core, data integrity layer is sinister as well. So I just try and take a step back from that immediate fear response, and think about it just as a continuation of it. It's all naturally, we naturally built tools, we naturally extended those tools, we naturally built systems to network, because the information that we share has, to me, it seems like it has a not necessarily a desire, but the natural or a state that it wants to return to is more concentrated, interrelated information of a higher, quality. Because if you think about it, we first maybe started writing pictures on the walls to store a story. We had verbal stories, then we went into carving things into stone, or then we had, say, papyrus and written words to preserve history and preserve information, which has utility because it can enhance our capacity to survive longer in the present moment. And then you got, say, a printing press, so you could sort of widely distribute that information. Then you got telegram, telegraph cables, and then you got faxes and the internet. And all that time, what it's doing is kind of making the information be able to be related to one another quicker, because it allows someone to derive utility from access to the information. And so I feel like that's just where we've been on a trend with forever. And you don't have to be thinking like, the singularity guys are all, leading us into this cyborg future, or, there is definitely a potential paradigm where it is like implemented by the slave masters, but that's not a reality that I really want to, focus on. I'd rather be trying to, building the awesome one that gives me, all the additional value out of the technology, rather than just being a Luddite and saying, no, we need to go back to the good old days and, throw away electricity and throw away the internet or whatever.
But isn't it almost too late for that? Go ahead, Casey. Were you gonna say something?
No.
Isn't it almost too late though for that? Because I mean, I know a lot of people. I have friends like, oh, let's go back to get rid of the electricity and go back to the. I mean, it's a wild hope and dream, but with the AI world that we're in now, I mean, isn't it almost too late for that? We have to embrace technology, or the AIs. Whoever wins the AI war and controls it, is the one that will keep freedom, or have enslavement, basically. I mean, it's going to be hard for the law to even keep up with AI.
Yeah, well, the law's like very broken anyway. Like we need to actually redefine, dust off even some jurisdictions from the past, in my opinion, and like stand in those jurisdictions which didn't have 70,000 new pieces of legislation implemented in the last decade or something like that. Like a lot of it's been implemented by, what would be, you would call like a government, but they're actually more like a body corporate entity that's operating over the top of a de jure state.
Yeah, we call it color of law out here. They're operating in color of law.
Yeah, so it's sort of like it's sort of mirroring law. It's in the nature of it, but it's not a true representation because it's it's being co-opted, and the whole system now is, if you were just passively going along with everything that's being sold and not rocking the boat, you're going to just end up as a thing to be harvested, whether that's through, however they want to get your sweat equity out of you, to tax you, to impose, fines and forfeitures on you at every turn, keep increasing every fine, and liability, keep increasing all the licensing fees and everything like that. Like nothing's going backwards. So we really need to redefine, some estates, or what would be called a realm, where then we can go into and stand united as a people and exercise our rights from there, and basically deny their attempts to like coerce you into contract with them.
Yeah, I mean, my hope is that we can utilize Bitcoin to enable that, empower more freedom. How? Through peer-to-peer cash, through public transparency, keeping things honest on the blockchain and making it our own ledger without them. Last night you talked a little bit about IPv6 too, and that seems to be, for me, a very misunderstood, I think, or like not understood topic. So
yeah, I think it's underappreciated, like what is on offer for it. It's not that easy to be IPv6 yet, but the nature of it is, speaking with Latif Ladid, who's sort of like the international chair of the IPv6 Council, and Ralph Wallace, who's president of the American IPv6 Council, our push into it. Like it's kind of essential, and it's essential for Teranode in the, for it to scale to that billions of transactions a second, because you want to be able to minimize. There's sort of, when you're sending out packets in IPv6, there's 3 different ways of doing it. there's like Anycast, multicast, and unicast. So multicast is one to many. Anycast is sort of one to the nearest peer that will pick it up, and unicast is sort of like direct to another. But when you use the one to many, like if you're pushing out, say, a terabyte block through unicast, you've got to push it out, and then you've got another unicast channel to someone else, so you push another terabyte to them. So in the end of it, you end up, if you got 50 peers, you end up pushing out 50 terabytes, and that's, you know, not the most efficient use of the bandwidth. Whereas if you have multicast, you're essentially like pushing it out, and anyone who's watching that group, the multicast group, will receive it. So even if you've got 50 peers in that group, and you're pushing out that 1 terabyte block, your bandwidth requirements are only 1 terabyte. So that is being explored for the Teranode setup, but AWS doesn't really support the multicasting very well. Like, it sort of has some hardware that does, but it doesn't quite do it. So it will probably come when people move their Teranode setups to being more on premises rather than cloud hosted. So like they're running it on their own hardware or in a data center or something. And then that once that happens, then you will probably have, say, when I broadcast a transaction, you wait for a request from ARC, which is the transaction processor, whether or not it's been seen on the network. But you could also in the future have it where you publish the transaction to a multicast group between the interested parties and the node network. So your transaction goes out, the node just pings a response back into that multicast group, and if you're online, you get a response that, yeah, several nodes have picked it up on the network. And that could even be like encapsulated in an additional thing, basically saying, here's the interested parties, here's the address for the multicast group, and the nodes just pick it up and automatically like join that multicast group, send it off there, and then they never are in that multicast group again. Like, it's only used, it's basically like a disposable set of IPv6 addresses. And there's that many addresses in IPv6 that you can do that. You can just dispose of them and make one use of them. Whereas in the IPv4 paradigm, there's a massive amount of scarcity of that unique identifier. With the IPv4 address, there's only probably 2 billion that are available for public use, and with 8 billion people on the planet, and each people having, 4 or 5 devices, it's inadequate. Once you move into that IPv6 paradigm, it's a paradigm of like abundance in in your networking aliases that you can spin up, or your sort of contact destinations. And when you've got that, you can start to exercise or like operate in that abundance, and use a new address for every transaction. Like, you're already using a new key for each transaction, but you can use a new v6 address. So every time you're messaging with a peer, that, like, even if people detected a pattern in the past, oh yeah, Gavin and Todd talk over this channel, then the next time we move to a different one and a different one and a different one. So it's really impossible for them to just capture all your communications and analyze them, and it forces them to rely more on like actual investigative work rather than just dragnet surveillance.
Yeah, dude, it's super
that?
interesting. What about Cam? Can you come up here? I see Doge Profit in the crowd. That'd be cool. I haven't heard from him in a while. How you been? Anil Raf's there, Casey. Looks like he's lurking there.
Come on up, Raf. Did you guys know there was a FOIA request?
The one for Satoshi?
On April 7th of 2025.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going out into the it's going into the Fed, it's going to the FBI. The FBI is a FOIA request for the FBI. What happened was, I could chat on that for a minute. Approve. Oh yeah, there he goes. Cam's coming up. So what happened was is the FBI did a talk, an agent, in a conference in, I think it was in Florida. I don't know what year it was, and it's on YouTube. You can watch it. And she says at the conference, yeah, we met with the Satoshi or Satoshi team, and we got all this information. And the subpoena, the FOIA is about getting the actual records for who they met with and when and what happened. And I think the meeting was around the time of Kleiman. So I'm assuming that they were just meeting with the client, with the, Craig Satoshi Wright during the Kleiman case at that time. I mean, it's. I don't know who else it could have been. But that for sure is happening, Casey.
Yeah, I was just doing some research looking into if the White House has, mentioned anything other than these CoinGeek articles and the other thing you had mentioned, and that's what came up. I wasn't even aware of that till just now. So that's great.
The FOIA request from the Satoshi.
In maybe January or February, like really, really early on, there was a bit of coverage with Brian Doherty. He was actually meeting with Bo Hines and David Sachs. I think he had an hour or two meeting with them on Capitol Hill around that around the time of that like crypto summit.
Yep.
So
Brian and also Alexander Mann met with Bo Hines.
Yeah.
And they had like an hour face-to-face with them, and it went extremely well. We really don't know what exactly happened, to be honest. Apparently, a lot of that's kept confidential. Absolutely. So all we know is that they definitely 100% met.
Yeah, and so Brian is an expert at laying it out, the value proposition and the sensible approach to blockchain strategy on a national infrastructure level. So if they were receptive to it, and if they were the type of people that were actually looking for intelligence on it and not just wanting to get in on a be early in the Ponzi scheme kind of thing, then I trust that he would have done a stellar job. And if you think about it though, like, who wants to be the guy that runs out and makes that declaration that whatever it is, $2 trillion is wrong? It's catastrophic what will happen there, and the fallout of it is, as much as I am partial to the idea of watching that world burn, I do. It's important to think of the fallout and the impact and the lives that could be destroyed and such. So there is a responsibility to manage it in a way that's going to, is it more damaging to let the scam go for longer if you can wind it up gracefully, or is it more damaging to just like deliver the truth hard and fast, rip the band-aid off, and who cares about the collateral damage? So I would imagine that, in the world of politics,
it's better to let the free market decide, and I think that's what they're going to do, or let Congress decide, because that way, if Congress does what they're going to do, they're going to go with the flow and bring this out slowly and gracefully. They're not going to but they've already got the Clarity Act that says that in order to be a mature blockchain in 3 years' time, you cannot be centrally controlled. You cannot have started by one person. What about Ethereum? That's kind of problematic. So how are they going to be mature blockchains? And mature blockchains are going to be the ones that are commodities. Everybody else, they're a security. So it's a slow bleed. I think it's a 24-month timeline, and I'm really realistic that it's not necessarily a guy making the decision. It's the market. It's the coming of the Clarity Act that is just reality.
Are you able to speak, Gavin, on because the SEC has sort of suggested that Bitcoin's a commodity and Ethereum is a commodity, but the SEC wouldn't be the right entity to make declarations around commodities. It would be the right entity to make declarations around securities, wouldn't it?
Congress. So what's happening is the Clarity Act, which is the third crypto act that's in Congress right now. We've got what's called the
Genius
Genius Act. The Genius
Yeah.
Act was the Stablecoin Act, and that is a matter of law. That passed. And
Yeah.
so we're now going to be running on stablecoins. And right now, that's what that new report was. It was all about the coming infrastructure and ideas for market for exploring things. That report had to come out after the law passed. And now it's going to start to roll out to forums and discussions. And they're going to start talking about networks. But coming right now, which is in Congress as well, I think it's in the Senate, which is the Clarity Act. And the Clarity Act talks about clarifying what's a security, what's a commodity. It's a long, very long bill.
Yeah.
And it is going to be Congress that will make that decision. And
Yeah,
then
great.
if what's required is that if Ethereum believes they're a commodity, well, then they have to, one of their representatives have to come forward and make an attestation under penalty of perjury and say, hey, we were not started by one person. We were not put up by, one entity. We are definitely not. And that's like, well, wait a second. That's putting now somebody who could be lying under penalty of perjury and be prosecuted for that. So that's what's going to be required. They would have to come forward and make that attestation. BTC Core, same thing. They're going to have to come forward and say, well, we did not, fork off and create a new network, and we're not centrally controlled by Core. Well, these are problematic things. I mean, I'm sure they're going to probably find a legal way to try to challenge, but it's still, the law was very clear the way I read it. Mature blockchains are going to require this statement: you cannot be centrally controlled by one person or a group.
Yeah. That's what Commissioner Hester Pierce said that in like 2021 or 2020. The definition of decentralized is that it's not possible for it to any changes to be sort of unilaterally introduced by an isolated subset or smaller group of the system. So I've been using that for the last few years as a definition for why you could consider BSV as a commodity.
Yeah.
And we've made the BSVA, they made the efforts of really defining what the protocol is, the core design of the protocol. They've got the network access rules, which is a responsible way to sort of define the operating terms. People wanted to get up on there, and have a cry about them, but in the scheme of things, it's what's required to step up and be able to make that attestation that you are a commodity. And there may be some additional steps that are required, but at least BSV would be the best contender to meet that classification. I think it's everything in preparation for it, and you'd have to expect that they would if they're serious about a blockchain future, that they would work constructively with the one who's making the best effort to satisfy that, and the other ones. What happens to the other ones then if they lose those?
They're a security, so they're going to be regulated under the SEC now. They've got a much harder standard to comply with. So they've got to do all the security law requirements, and they can still operate, but they've got to pass all that.
Can they still be part of the ETFs?
I don't know.
Because it was when the SEC made those declarations around, Bitcoin being a commodity, then that was basically when it seemed to be that was a precursor for the approval of those ETFs.
I don't know about that. I do know one important point that it talked about was the airdrops. It said a network can fork off and create another the network can change the protocol. And when the network changes the protocol, it can airdrop coin tokens. And it basically was describing exactly what happened with BTC. Rafael Laverde, what's up, dude? You with us?
Are you rugging again? He was on a space earlier and they were messing with his mic. Hopefully that's not happening again.
Censorship, bro.
Yep.
What about Cam? I haven't heard from him in a while. How you doing, Cam?
Good. How you doing, Gavin? Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm just learning. I'm catching up with all this Genius Act and Clarity Act stuff. It seems like you got a good grasp of what's going on. The only thing I'm I'm a bit concerned about is like, how do we know that there's not like corruption won't get in the middle of all this like it happened in the UK court? Like, how do we know that they're not just going to continue printing Tether? You know what I mean?
Oh, they're going to. Are you kidding me?
But didn't you say that, like there's like some kind of well, they're going to be like auditing the stablecoins because of the Genius Act?
The Genius Act is going to require a true one-to-one treasuries behind the stablecoins by 36 months from the time it passed. So Tether has about 35 months. I mean, let's say 24 months realistically to get legit. And then, they wouldn't be able to function anymore after that if they don't have the treasuries. So I thought it was kind of ironic that they went ahead and they bought a ton more. They printed a ton more. Once the Satoshi coin started moving, they started printing a bunch more Tether, just in opposite of the law, what the law says to do.
Yeah, they seem like they're in full YOLO mode,
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be rogue for a while, Cam, maybe they'll just ride it out till the end. Why not just ride it out till the tires fall off the car?
You'd think that they'll do that. What other? There's like 5 people in the organization.
What's that?
Isn't there there's like 5 people in the whole organization or something like that? There's super lean operation. So like they just nick off, let it crash and burn, and whatever assets they've got that are going to be movable afterwards, they just like ride it out on there. I don't think that they're necessarily interested in operating a legitimate business. Like,
I would see.
I think the barrier to transition is too big.
Let me just say I'm really looking forward to the Project Veritas style videos that come out about all this someday. Where we had that Kyle Roche sting operation videos where they caught him on camera talking about all these illegal things they've been doing. I'm really looking forward to those regarding all this BTC and Tether and all this stuff one of these days.
I'm sure they'll be interesting, but I don't trust that organization. Like, they're working they're obviously buddy with Aga Hansen to execute that, and then dropping it. So I feel like all that sort of truther side of things, they're really at best like dropping the ball on this and being negligent from like failing to pick it up and pull these threads. But I don't give any of them the free pass to thinking that they're actually interested in sharing the truth. When there's some organization with a polished website and has 100 million followers on Twitter or something like that, I just assume that it's some kind of propaganda and the Hegelian dialect keeping everyone sort of spinning their wheels and such like that. So I'm sure it would be entertaining to figure it out.
You got to have hope though here, because what the White House right now is doing, what I'm seeing is that they are open. They realize there's a problem. They realize these bankers are completely trying to control things, and everything that, they're open. That report tells me that they're open-minded, and that he met with he likely met with, like I said, Brian. Brian educated him, and he's like, you know what? We have to be open to this. Why would? Yeah.
Oh, look, I'll be so stoked if it does all turn out that way. I'm also like prepared that it, might just be, more hard work of carrying the torch, and that's fine as well. I'm not going to sell out and jump ship either way, kind of thing. Like, it's just kind of ride or die.
Ride or die. That's right, dude. So Raf, looks like you're on mute, or you're muted, or your mic's off. So when you're on mute, we'd love to hear from you. So Cam, anything new and exciting?
Not really, to be frank. No, I feel like I'm kind of in limbo. Like if you, I don't know if you feel the same way. Like this saga has been stretched out so much longer than I ever thought would. Like, and I'm just feels like I'm kind of like it's like waiting and watching for things to unfold for like the future to just kind of start happening. But yeah, are you? So do you really think that the White House do you really feel like it's going to like these things, like the financial system is going to get legitimized more? Like it's not going to be like this,
Well,
like the how the Federal Reserve has been working.
well,
Do you really feel
they're
like?
I feel that it's going to be the market to decide. I feel like it's going to be a fight for sure, because what's going to happen is they're going to JP Morgan coin and all these banks are going to roll out their own stable coin, and that's going to come out, and they're going to start trying to force people on it to track everybody and trace everything they do, and they're going to give you incentives. Hey, buy the JP Morgan coin, and then we're going to give you a better mortgage, and we'll trace everything that you do. So that's their plan. That's their like the deep state side. That's what they want. But in reading the report, there's also the other side. We say, wait a second, we got to have peer-to-peer. We all got to be on chain, and it references this stuff. I see that it's going to be the free market to decide, and it's going to be the best man winning. They're not leading one way or the other at all in that report, the way I read it. Ralph had his hand up, though. I'd love to hear. But what's up, dude? You got your hand up, and then you're quiet.
What's up, guys? Yeah, no, I walked away from the computer, so I apologize if you guys called on me.
We called on you. No worry, you didn't call.
Okay, so I walked away for a little bit, but good evening, everyone. I think that if you want to have a clearer picture of what's happening to Bitcoin's original design, I think it's really important to also study what's happening to privacy coins like Monero. So you have to, as a fellow big blocker, you have to big block Bitcoin is plan A. That's the way you should see it, right? In your mind's eye, like that's plan A, because it completely frees humanity from central planners. It's the way for us to, create a market-driven meritocracy where Bitcoin and hash power are in the middle of it all, right? Great. But if that doesn't work out, and a lot of people in the think that it won't work out, those individuals went off to create networks like Monero, Pirate Chain, and many other privacy coins. What's happening right now is very interesting. I'm personally of the opinion that Monero right now is being attacked by there's a very concerted effort to attack Monero right now from different angles. So you notice that the same people that attack BSV are the same entities, the same groups that attack Monero. The same people that you hear someone like Kurt Walker Jr. call out for the hijacking of Bitcoin, they're the same groups also going after Monero right now. There's it's really interesting that I'm noticing like the same characters, the same cast of characters who are behind attacking BSV are also attacking Monero. So, and why is that? Because I see that Monero is like one approach, which is like if shit hits a fan, you need privacy. But so in other words, I've always seen it as almost like a free market pincer attack, a free market bullhorn envelopment that is just naturally happening through spontaneous order, where people are figuring ways and figuring out solutions. And you have the Satoshi solution, which is to give you a system that completely outcompetes, has the potential of outcompeting big tech and the central banks. And then The other extreme, which would be give humanity complete anonymity and privacy, and that is the option that is like the war option, right? That's like the option where if you don't have any other choice, that's the option you have, right? If you're someone living in Gaza, or in the middle of a war, you're gonna want to safeguard whatever fortune you have, whatever wealth you have for you and your family. So you more than likely are going to be seeking a privacy coin, and an anonymous network. And so keep an eye on what's happening with these networks. The second most attacked cryptocurrency is Monero after BSV. And that's not a coincidence, guys. That's not a coincidence. If you study the people who have like positioned themselves to rival Monero, you'll see that it is the same exact outfits like Digital Currency Group and so forth that go after the Monero network as well. The game theory is different. The reasons why people attack Monero, they have other plausible excuses, different than for BSV. But you'll notice that there's a lot of overlap in both worlds, because both worlds come from a very true perspective of Bitcoin and crypto history. And while like the likes of Ethereum, BTC, and Bitcoin Cash will try to lie to the world to tell them that they can have privacy within those networks, we all know that that is a lie, that that's not something that's going to be possible, that if you really truly want privacy, you have to have it at the protocol level. So, but in other words, the BSV worldview and the Monero worldview is one of the same. So the Monero worldview agrees with BSV in that BSV is an honesty machine, that Bitcoin was created by Satoshi to be an honesty machine, a truth machine, a global truth ledger. So they see that worst case scenario, humanity needs a way out, a way to survive, and they don't see a truth ledger being that. And so yeah, it's pretty much what I wanted to say thus far. But I noticed you guys are talking about a lot of cool things, like there's a Freedom of Information Act thing that I heard Casey bring up. Also, the appeal that's happening for the delisting of exchanges. Yeah, we're definitely causing what they want. They don't want people to talk about this. They don't want people to drive attention to this. So I thank you guys for driving attention to this. That's why I join you, to bring more people so that the discussion, we had like a space the other day. I was like over 200 people showed up. Thanks to Spam, who's in the audience, I can see here. Yeah, people do not want these conversations to be had. They hate the fact that we're still talking about this. You have to realize that there are people who are paid to psychologically disturb Bitcoiners and I see them all the time. Like even today, today I encountered a guy. What I do is that whenever I encounter them, I block them. So they position themselves as fellow BSVers, but then they poison drip. They just try to like fud the crap out of it, while at the same time they're pro BSV. It's very interesting, the dynamic, right? And so, and I think that is a very clever psychological operation, because it's what the con man does, right? He earns your trust and then he screws you over. But this is like the opposite, where you find it in activism. Well, let's say you and I are going to go protest something in City Hall. They would send someone who in the activist world we call a cooler, right? And the cooler will come in and say, well, do you guys really want to go do that march? You guys really want to do that? Because like, if you do that, you could get arrested, right? So that's the cooler, And there's so many different tactics that these people are professional at employing. But with Bitcoin, it's almost like they are playing with a new environment, because they're having to deal not with just social networks that are technological and that have economic power and that can definitely scale. So the most clever thing that they've been able to do is to demoralize the Bitcoiner, the BSVer. And notice that they don't go after the Bitcoin Cash guys. They don't harass the Bitcoin Cash community. The Bitcoin Cash community is not harassed at all. They're left alone. It's not even a threat. Not a threat at all. The Monero community is very interesting because they don't apply the same tactics that they do to the BSV community. The Monero community, they use the Monero community's culture, their rhetoric, and their arguments for privacy, because they adopt those same arguments. They co-opt those arguments to push forward the crippling of BTC, for example, like they're doing right now, like they're still doing right now. Right now, the same people who copied Jiawei Lu and the same people who also copied Craig Wright with Bitcoin Turn Completeness, which is the super testnet, the Robin Linus, and all those guys who are working on BitVM and all that. They're the same people who are now attacking Monero. Very interesting, right? The same people who attack BSV, who funded Digital Currency Group, which is MasterCard, are the same people who also attack Monero, because they have their own, what I would consider a fake privacy coin, Zcash, which they try to sell people as a privacy coin, which is not. It's a centralized blockchain controlled by a company out of Colorado called the Electronic Coin Company. So they're the same people. So I'll give you an example of what they're doing with BitVM. BitVM copies BSV technology to try to they can't do shit, but they copy BSV technology within the BTC layer 2 architecture to then hash computations that they do off chain on the BTC blockchain. And they do it under the plausible deniable reason that they don't want to leave any on-chain footprints, as this is their language. Furthermore, they still are preaching the lie that the Lightning Network is more private than Monero. That is completely false. And the Lightning Network, we all know, doesn't scale. It's a dud. It's always been a dud. But they use the argument for privacy in order to move liquidity away from the heart of Bitcoin, which is this blockchain, into back to the banks. And this is something us big blockers have been saying since before the Lightning Network came out. Like, we knew that this was going to be their plan of attack. So that's interesting, right? That the same people that attack BSV, the same people that copy BSV, are the same people who are now attacking Monero. So I think it's wise for example, Crypto Spartacus. I really admire his work because he's someone who's also very much, he's along this line, right? He's someone who understands privacy in the privacy world and the privacy culture very well, and he also sees the light aspect of all of this, right? The Bitcoin truth machine aspect of all of this. And I really think that for BSVers, it's like a very important aspect of who we are, that we understand the networks that complement, or let's just call it the side of the space that complements, that mirrors what we're doing. Those who are like the shadows to our light, right? That's something that is very healthy. It's very healthy because on paper, it seems as if Monero is the biggest rival to BTC. Actually, most BTC maxis, if they follow their logical conclusions, they all end up being Monero people, because BTC, what it sells is Monero. They sell fungible digital cash, or some version of that, in their distorted layer 2 approach. But what they all want really is Monero. That's what the BTC person wants is Monero, and what the Bitcoin Cash person really wants is Monero. So all the dumb people in BTC and in Bitcoin Cash, inevitably, like for example, Roger Ver, I don't call him dumb, but Roger Ver always wanted Monero. He never wanted Bitcoin the way Satoshi designed it. He wanted Monero, and he even says it in his last interview. He said, if I were to enter the space right now, I'd be all for Monero. I wouldn't even be for Bitcoin." So they want Monero. Cool. There's nothing wrong with you wanting that technology. The problem is that they use the excuse of pursuing that technology, and they also adopted the language of the truth movement and of the libertarian movement, the libertarian rhetoric, to psyop Bitcoiners into the hijacking of Bitcoin that we experience. So it's very important for us to know these things, and but deep down, the smartest people in BTC know that their true existential threat is BSV, is the fullness of Bitcoin, and that's why they don't fight that war alone, right? Like they that's something that they like. What BSV represents is a threat not just to BTC but to the entire um establishment, both in big tech and Silicon Valley, where you even have it. I have a video where Craig Wright is explaining this. He explains in his own words why Silicon Valley hates him so much. And he breaks down how he changes the entire funding model and the incentive structures with Bitcoin for startups into the future, where people use the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, as the back end of their business. And there are no central planning manipulators of innovation that we call venture capitalists, which is beautiful. See, like even the creation of future technology is protected by Bitcoin incentives. And so yeah, this is a big deal, guys. And it's good that we talk a lot about this. It's good that we have a lot of spaces about this. Spam, I'm all for, if you want to invite me to spaces where there are more people interested in the truth movement, in listening to this, to call it revisionary history, whatever, about Bitcoin, about the truth of Bitcoin. By all means, I'm there. I'm more than happy to be part of those conversations, to teach people, because this is really what matters most. And we live in a very, in a moment in time where things are very, like humanity's in a huge predicament. No one knows the answers. Cryptocrates today just like posted a bunch of AI people like freaking out because they do not know how to like leash those beasts that they've unleashed, with AI. And Craig Wright nonchalantly explains it in his latest article on Immutable AI, where he explains how it is the incentive structures of Bitcoin through micropayments where data becomes arbitraged, and we get to educate an AI that is actually useful for us. Right now, all of AI, guys, it's unfortunate. Nine of the AI companies, biggest nine of the all the US AI companies, including Grok, who's listening to this conversation, they're all controlled by the State Department. They're all controlled by the government. So they're all just an incredibly huge dragnet of surveillance and tyranny. Really, it's turnkey tyranny what we're up against right now. And there's people talking about how even the AI itself, ChatGPT, if you have to know how to speak to it in order to get what they call structural truth. What does that mean? That's another fancy word of saying phatic reality is another term that people throw in academia, right? Reality that is actually real. So if you want the AI to actually give you truth, you have to know how to psyop the AI. I'm gonna post that video on the chat above as well, so you guys can see what's happening here. But it's pretty freaky what can happen, and I feel like we're all here understand like Doge Profit, dude. Like I heard what you were saying. I didn't finish hearing everything you said, but you said it's been such a long time. It's been such a long time. Dude, this is a fight for the rest of our lives, man. You have to understand that, like, what we know here, there are entities that do not want us talking about this. They want us to forget. They want to scare us away from this. Vladimir, who was he has the Bitcoin Takeover podcast. You know what he said? I have to find the tweet to share it to you guys. But a lot of influencers in Bitcoin, big blockers, were paid to leave. Including like who was the guy that was an actual gigolo that became a crypto activist? That guy, and a bunch of other people that were very famous, big blockers, more leaning towards the Bitcoin Cash side of things. They were paid to leave. We had the guy who said we live in the age of Craig Wright versus what's his name? Satan's Claus or whatever from the WF. That dude, he was murdered, right? We see Craig Wright being attacked. You see Roger Ver being attacked. It's we live in a moment in time where, like, they don't want us to talk about these things. We are white martyrs. Like, you have to understand, if you're here in this room, you have to realize and accept it if you want to move forward with this, in that you are someone who they do not want you to be talking about this. They do not want you to be talking about this, to be teaching about this. So we have to be strategic. We have to be smart. I personally can see the moment in time where I'm going to go dark, completely dark, and I'll be just using the platform that I've created through the dollar with the dollar vigilante and the crypto vigilante. We store content that is forbidden on vigilante.tv. I don't know if you guys have seen that before. Vigilante.tv. Everything that I've ever written teaching our subscribers about Bitcoin and crypto, it's all there. So if you go to vigilante.tv, we host our own, we have our own YouTube per se. So we're all about in the business of preserving truth. And so for me, as properly speaking, the leader of the crypto vigilante, BSV is of utmost importance for me. It is the tool of activism that the world needs. And so just know that what we're doing right now is something that they do not want. Look at I made an observation this morning. We had, you will notice this, that BSV starts the waves always in crypto. Keep an eye on this, waves of innovation. The waves of, it's almost as if humanity keeps a pulse. There's like an intrinsic magnetism that every human soul has to truth, and everyone knows the truth is out there. And whenever we make big waves here, you will notice how the next day or the next couple of days, there's this like bubbling up of optimism throughout the entire crypto space. It's really interesting, guys. It's really interesting. So what happened this past week? We had Degan of Project Babbage put out a video on how to get into the Metanet using a wallet without having to give any identifiable information. That's huge. No phone, right? That's what he said in his no phone. You had one of the Calgoon brothers put out a video on Bitcoin as the internet, literally showing you how to navigate the fullness of Bitcoin as the internet. You have Craig Wright writing about how to actually, and this is what's crazy for people is it's not just about hosting AI, that we can host AI. Okay, this is the big thing here, guys, that Craig Wright is telling everyone with what he wrote. And this is what the biggest mindfuck for everyone. No, it's not that you just can host an AI client. The big issue with AI is who can train the AI. And in order to train in AI, you have to aggregate a lot of data, of course, right? You have to have a supercomputer. You have to have the facility to train the AI. Craig Wright, with what he wrote and what we've been talking about in BSV through proof of work, and even with Jack Luo, we're talking about HODLlocker, HODLlocker.com. We have the mechanism and the incentive drivers to be the capitalist, market-driven blockchain that trains AI. Do you understand how significant and big this is? No one else out there will even dare to say that they have the capability to train AI. We do. We do. We
That's
can
the huge
train
stuff,
our
man.
own AI.
Huge.
It's huge, bro. It's fucking huge. If you read slowly, read what Craig Wright says about when he talks about micropayments as the means to train AI. He literally is telling you how micropayments, how us, by sending 1/50,000th of a penny back and forth, the AI is trained through honest signals, not just noise, and not just manipulated by central planners, but a market-driven AI in real time through micropayments, guys. So this is the blockchain, the Bitcoin's original design that is capable of training AI. And that is huge, my friends. That is huge. So when we have Bitcoin as the internet, we have Bitcoin as P2P interconnectivity, where like you can even have phones, right, that are verifiably encrypted P2P, where there is no eavesdropper for sure, because everything in Bitcoin is P2P. And you have the growing awareness that Bitcoin is the place to train AI. The fullness of Bitcoin is the place to train AI. No one can compete with this. You have to understand, no one can compete with this. So all of a sudden, I noticed this morning and yesterday night, all of a sudden, the ordinals community, which everything on chain, everything that you see that's quote unquote on chain in crypto, keep an eye on it. All of a sudden, they're talking like, we're back, we're back, we're back. Ordinals on BTC are back, we're back. Keep an eye on Coinbase. I know for sure, because one time, it's okay, a coincidence. 2 times, it's like, okay, you're suspicious. But 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like Coinbase research and development people, I know for sure, listen to these conversations. They learn from us in BSV, and they copy ideas from us in BSV. Maybe it could be that people from BSV sell those ideas to Coinbase, but they use our language and they use our ideas. You guys heard of Pump.Fun from the Base blockchain? That was the whole topic of conversation at the last Cambrian, where we would talk. We came up with the idea of a creator token, and notice that when they came up with that, the whole time they were talking about on-chain summer. That's everything. It's just they're copying us. They hate us, but they copy us. Coinbase delisted BSV. It's one of the entities in the lawsuit. Yet they copy us. They use our language. Dude, they use my language. I listen to marketing copy. I read and listen to marketing copy of Coinbase, and it's me. And I did a whole video where I'm just walking through a cornfield making fun of Coinbase. I'm like, dude, like, at least pay me, fuckers. Like, you're literally taking my ideas and using it for the branding of your company. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if someone listens to his recording or is live right now here listening from Coinbase. Like, I could almost, it's so fucking obvious to me, dude. So they hate you on the outside, but on the inside they're copying you as much as they can. The guys from Solana tend to be a little bit more honest, because they've admitted they understand us BSV. They understand Bitcoin.
Let me add one thing here, Raf, and then just really comment on one thing that you said that's important. You mentioned that we're in the middle of a tyranny, and the government's taking over all these AIs and everything, right? Well, there is some truth to that, but let me just clarify and be specific as to what it actually says, and that's Detachment 201. So everybody can look that up. You got Detachment 201, which is the Executive Innovation Corps, and that is bringing in Meta, OpenAI, and also Palantir have all had their CTOs sworn into the military as officers. What does that mean? Well, they're under military law now, which is a absolute fierce, deadly, you don't mess around form of law, okay? You're in the military active duty, you do not mess around. Otherwise you get court-martialed, They don't have the rights, the constitutional rights and all that like everybody else, So it's very strict. So yes, I would agree, Raf, that they are, but it's under the military. That's what Attachment 201 says.
Yeah, and I mean, you have like the most insightful book in small blocker history, written by Major Lowry, right? Soft War, which, and you know, the interesting thing is that they understand that Bitcoin's a weapon now. Something we've been saying that since day fucking one. Like, Bitcoin's a weapon, Bitcoin's a weapon. No one listened. Okay, now it's a weapon, but the tragedy is that the focal point that these bankers are giving government is the focal point of a hijacked Bitcoin. A Bitcoin that is ready to hurt the people. So if you get government investing in that Bitcoin, you're investing inadvertently into the enslavement of your own people. Whereas the true about Bitcoin, the fullness of Bitcoin, liberates your people and truly, okay, there's a difference between money and wealth, right? Wealth is the creation of capital goods, the capacity to create capital goods and consumer goods. They're only selling you the coin aspect of Bitcoin that doesn't even work as a coin. So they think of wealth as just money. Money's not wealth. Capital good is what is produced on chain in the fullness of Bitcoin, where we can have all types, anything created digitally on BSV, on chain, because it's a supercomputer. So they did a bait and switch, right? With the hijacking of Bitcoin, they're presenting to the world that as Bitcoin, but in reality, that is something to just empower people who have already been in power and to enslave the world. The true Bitcoin empowers everyone and invites everyone to create capital goods and consumer goods on chain. Real wealth. This is a wealth generating engine, is what Satoshi gave us. It's not, it's so many things, dude. Bitcoin is so many things. That's why I can't help myself but to talk about it, to research more about it. I'm really happy I got to meet Todd, who's in the he's one of the speakers here. You know, because I wanna learn Bitcoin to the level he understands it. Like, Todd, I need to sit down with you for a couple days, man. I really do. I love Bitcoin so much, and yet because I've been defending it on like these very stupid premises, you know, that this with this dumb small blocker ideas, I've personally have been able to just go deep into Bitcoin. You know, I really want to go deep into Bitcoin because I know enough to understand it, but I really want to get into it even more. I really want to learn more about BSV because it's almost like, you know how in theology they say the word mystery is not that the word mystery in theology is not that something can't be known, but rather that it's something so vast and grandiose that the more you know, the more you realize there is to know, and there's always something else to know, right? And that's how I feel that my encountering of Bitcoin in its fullness is. It's like it's a true mystery. Like, the more I learn about Bitcoin, the more I realize how much more there is to know about Bitcoin. It extends to all fields of study. It's just incredible. It goes into the world of physics with energy, and it goes into the world of finance, economics, human action, entrepreneurship, business, um, social theory of all types of social sciences are applied as well. So, and no, dude, like, it's a gift from God. Like, Bitcoin is a gift from God, guys. It really is. The fullness of Bitcoin is a gift from God. And so, yeah, we really need to protect it. And I don't know when we will actually be, quote unquote, it's almost like if you see something beautiful, you honor it for its own sake, right? So there's three different types of good, right, in the world. There's the objective good, the subjectively satisfying good, and that which is good in it of itself, right? So let me break it down. Let me explain to you how I'm rewarded from Bitcoin, right? The subjectively satisfying good is that, like ice cream, right? You want to go get ice cream with your girlfriend. You enjoy the ice cream. You love the taste of ice cream. It's subjectively satisfying, but it's not objectively good because, you know, calories, and it's just, it's not the healthiest of meals, right? The objective good is something that it's like medicine, right? It's or like drinking a shake that tastes really bad but is very healthy. That's or working out when you don't feel like it. You're doing something for the objective good of it, not because it's subjectively satisfying. No, it's just the objective good of it. And then there is those things that move humanities, and it moves us because we're rational animals. Things that move us because they have dignity and honor in themselves, right? And that's kind of like honoring human life, right? Um, Meditating and realizing that there's a higher power, honoring the divine, honoring the life of people, right? Um, Honoring sacrifice of someone, right? So for me, Bitcoin in its fullness, BSV is in that category of good in it of itself, because in itself is something worthy of being revered, um so so yeah, guys, what we need to start thinking is how to be smarter with everything. And maybe, just maybe, a lot of the Bitcoiners listening here should consider using more cryptography and privacy in their life for when they cook ideas, when they scheme ideas for Bitcoin. It's not necessarily good to be putting this out all the time on X. It's also important. I think we're at a point now where we're about to take off. Okay. This is where we're at right now. Like the Babbage stack, Gorilla Pool, Bitcoin schema, all these libraries that have been built out. The fact that Craig Wright finally, like, in a sense, really settled his own personal life with the notion of Satoshi. Fuck it. Let them think I'm fake Toshi. Who gives a fuck? I'm just focusing on my work. So we're at a point in time where we're like, we can really start making dents. And what I would encourage you guys is to embrace cryptography. Be like Satoshi. If you're an entrepreneur in BSV, don't be putting everything that you're working on out there. Don't let them know what you're doing here, because a lot of what you're doing here can only be thought of and envisioned here, because here you have like the most abundant playground to play in. So if you come up with an idea here, share it with other Bitcoiners. That's why we really need like networks of trust, as Bitcoiners, and work on them with Bitcoiners. Like, I'm very picky about the people I bring into Relay Y, for example.
Can I ask you a quick question
What's up? What's up?
about the vigilante.tv that you said you guys have, like almost your own YouTube version? Like, how do we turn that into a private, monetized thing with micropayments? And have you had any conversations with Jeff about anything like that? Because that seems like it would be a perfect hub for that type of innovation.
Yes, but like, you have to understand that in the world of optics and marketing, and in the world of the commercial attack that BSV has suffered, we have to, as a business, you have to take those things into account. So that sounds great, Kels. That sounds really awesome, Casey. The problem is that BSV doesn't have any real like avenues of liquidity right now because of all the listings. So, and you have to keep in mind that the community of the crypto vigilante is a community that is not trustworthy, does not trust the systems that are transparent. Our motto is to survive and prosper during and after the dollar collapse. The dollar is in collapse right now,
and
we will see crazy shit, right? But
how come Jeff doesn't talk about BSV at all? I've always wondered why he's,
because I do enough of it. He doesn't have to. I don't want him to. I wouldn't want him to. Even if he said things in private, like within our channels. He said one thing the other day, is like when BSV was delisted from OKX, he said, he said, man, it really makes me want to buy BSV. The more they delist BSV, the more I want to buy it, he says. And he does, and whenever we have internal conversations with like our subscribers, he brings it up. Like he sees it, he understands it. But and I mean, well, praise God, right? That he is open-minded enough to we're business partners, right? He's my mentor. We work together, and he's generous enough to allow that I bring this and I talk about this all the time, something that affects our business's bottom line, something that whenever I talk like this, we get DDoS attacked right away. We're right away under attack.
So we got some hands up, and then I know people want to ask stuff.
So praise God that no, dude, Casey, that would be asking too much from us, because the truth is, Casey, is that whether you want to admit it or not, actors within BSV caused, for whatever reason, you have to admit your own faults. They caused a lot of harm to BSV itself. Like the aggressive stance of Craig Wright and Calvin Ayre against the entire crypto space could have been handled a different way. Like, now, am I to tell a grown-ass man what to do? Am I to tell Satoshi what to do or what I think is best? No, he only knows what's best for him, and I have no idea what the fuck his life is like, what he's thinking, or what he perceives in the world that I don't, right? So that would be disrespectful of me to say I would do better than him. No. I would not. I have no idea what goes on in Satoshi's mind, right? And that's not for me to judge. Now, from an outsider's perspective, I could say, fuck, man, I wish it would have been handled different, because look at how much BSV has suffered from all the delistings and all the enemies that were, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, again, everyone has their reasons for acting, and there's things that I don't know. I'm not privy to their conversations, but there was no reason to go that hard after, to go create all these lawsuits against people. I personally don't think so. Right. And that created an animosity against BSV, right? And who, and in that whole process, one second, Gavin, and in that whole process of him wrestling with his identity, he said himself that he stomped on hard drives. Under oath, he said he stomped on hard drives, that he took away a lot of proof of him that he's Satoshi. And I can see that happening, because I have a lot of friends who care about their privacy. And if they're ever doxxed anywhere near to how much Craig Wright was doxxed as Satoshi by Wired and Gizmodo, they would go fucking crazy. They would go nuts. So I could see someone like him freaking the fuck out, because it's almost like his identity as the creator of Bitcoin was raped. It's like suffering a type of rape. Really, dude. It's fucking horrible. So I could imagine someone in that desperation stomping on hard drives.
It's confusing to me because,
writing things up and whatever. And
well, I'm disappointed, I will say publicly, in Jeff, because he has a very large audience that I think could have brought a lot of people to this space.
No, you can't say that. You can't say that. I'm here because of Jeff. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, him personally.
No, I don't accept that, Casey, because I am the face of the crypto vigilante, and I'm putting my reputation on the line. This is a costly ass signal for me and everyone around me. If anything, you should be very grateful that Jeff is the generous person that he is, and that my team, even though they're small blockers, and a lot of them are small blockers or privacy enthusiasts, that they're generous enough to put up with all the bullshit that the boomers within BSV have given to people in BSV. We as a network, people that are part of the network in BSV, we don't deserve that amount of bullshit that come from people within the network itself. Now, again, we, with humility, we would say, like, we have no fucking idea what they're going through. A lot of the greatest developers and people within BSV left because they couldn't take the bullshit anymore. Okay. Yeah. I'm one of the last ones around because I have an objective mind. I make up my own mind, and I see that, no, it makes sense to me that the shit show that we went through, because I understand human nature and I understand people with autism and shit like that. Like, it makes sense to me that a shit show like that would unfold. And then when I look at every contingent factor around the whole situation, I realize, like, if anything, the harshness by which they're coming after Craig Wright begs for me to research and look even further into all of this. And then when I see, like, things revealed because of what happened to Craig, like the Marty Mulvey emails, where we see that Satoshi was a big blocker in that correspondence that was kept hidden till it was forced by law to be revealed, then it's like, oh shit. And then when I see later on BTC people copying everything that we're doing in BSV, then that's something that calls to question, not calls to question, but verifies that we're on the right path. And when you study Bitcoin, you actually study Bitcoin, and you look for who can best explain Bitcoin to you, I have not found a better explanation than Craig Wright. He gives me an account of every aspect of Bitcoin thoroughly, and he gives me reasons why from various different perspectives. So
I agree with that completely.
No, if anything, Craig Wright is not, I mean, if anything, Jeff Berwick is nothing but generous.
I understand. I'm
Like, you know how much shit I've brought to our organizations by being pro BSV? Do you have any idea
a couple of the other
the sacrifices that we've made for BSV? Like, by just being free thinkers. It's not like most of the analysts at the Crypto Vigilante hate BSV, don't like BSV. You have to understand. But but we have a network where we're independent thinkers, and we don't want to be an echo chamber. And this is this is, in my opinion, the most important body of knowledge to research within the crypto space, because everything departs from this one point, from this one question. Do you think yourself better than Satoshi? That is, can you create something better than Bitcoin's original design? Yes or no? The BTC small blocker said we can create something better than Satoshi. We know better than Satoshi. Vitalik said the same. Dan Laramere said the same. Everybody in their mama that said I can create something better than Satoshi. Okay.
Okay. Now take a breather.
One second, Crypto Voyager. Hey, buddy, I'm not done. 1 second. BSV.
We've got some other people with their hands up, Raph. I really want to give them a little bit of time.
I'm almost done. BSV is the only network that says the individuals in BSV says, I'm actually going to study what Satoshi gave us. And I'm not going to make that a presumption that I know more than Satoshi. I'm actually going to study the fullness of Bitcoin. And that's the type of person I am, and that's why I'm here.
Hey, I got a 10-second comment if I can make it. 10 seconds.
Go ahead.
Okay. I just only tuned in maybe 20, 30 minutes ago. And Raph, I talked to you, maybe it was like a couple months ago. I heard we were in a X Spaces talking about the intersection of CRISPR and gene editing and BSV and all that shit. And we did some private messages, and you said, get back to me. I got banned like right after that. And that's my first week or two back from X after a couple months. And anyways, I heard you talk about the dollar vigilante. And I remember I listened to that guy like every single day, like back in like 2017, 2018. And I'm trying to make sense of what you say because it is a good question on why he never mentioned BSV. So he might be so smart that he knows that if he mentions BSV, he can never have an audience again. That's
exactly.
And I'm open to that. But check this out. So this is where the smoke. This is what interests me, is that one day I would have to dig into his videos to like pinpoint which video. But one day I remember clicking on him. I'm thinking I'm going to hear him talk about Bitcoin all day. And it was pretty much like right when the hash wars, like, I didn't know about BSV when BCH first popped up. It seemed like BSV got like buried for a minute for like a normal person like me. And I didn't discover it till like a couple years afterwards. But it seems like around the hard fork, all of a sudden, the dollar vigilante, one episode, he didn't even talk about the hash wars no more. He just talked about buying a lot of silver or gold. And for some reason, I thought that was like writing on the wall of like something that like he totally got turned off by Bitcoin in a way. And so there's an angle that I'm thinking that if he's a true BSVer at heart, that would have turned. That's how I would have reacted. I would have reacted the same way that he would have reacted, basically. Okay, and that's all I got to say.
Jeff is very smart. He's very fucking smart, and he's just smart. Period. And he's a genius marketer. Okay, genius marketer. Keep that in mind. So everything you said in the beginning was very valid, right? Okay. Now, he was also the first person of notoriety in the entire Bitcoin crypto space to give you the entire history on how Bitcoin was hijacked, and he named names. You know where it happened? You can still find it on YouTube. He get during an interview with Luke Rudkowski. Go to wearechange.org and look the video Bitcoin Jeff Berwick. Just Google Luke Rudkowski Bitcoin Jeff Berwick, and Jeff gave you the same exact story that Kurt Wooker Jr. is so popular for now. It was that interview when I knew, I was like, Jeff is a fucking badass, because he's giving you the truth about Bitcoin. Knowing that he's calling out Bilderberg, he's literally saying Bilderberg, Henry de Castrios funded Blockstream. Like, what the fuck is going on with Bitcoin? We're having a civil war. Like, he's the guy that when he's explaining this Bitcoin civil war to Luke Rudkowski, Jeff tells you exactly. He gives you. It's like listening to me talk. Okay, that's all you have to know. Google.
All right, hey, that's good, Rap. That's the Venn diagram I was looking for. I'm looking for Venn diagrams that like help make shit make sense, and that's one of them for me. I'm going to turn my mic off for the rest of the night. God bless everyone here.
Thank you so much for coming up, Chuck. Let's go over to Todd or Spam. I'd really love to hear from you guys, and then we'll go back to Gavin. Thanks, Raf.
All right, let me jump in. So one of the things that I was taught by my Gnostic enlightened teacher, all right, was that when you start to get this energy of going head to head with something, right, and you've got major signal masquerading right now, right? It's noise, but it's masquerading as signal. You've got Peter Thiel going on Joe Rogan, telling all of the Bitcoiners, oh, well, we're really concerned about the energy of Bitcoin, all right? And you've got spaces going on in real time, parallel to this space, that are parroting that. And the point is that Peter Thiel is putting out signal to the modified Bitcoiners that you're the you're the resistance, right? So that's a fake signal, and when you see that, you must understand that that is a kind of desperation, because there's a point for point thing happening. It might not be obvious to people, but I see it, right? Because they all start parroting it. And you got to start talking more about strategy relative to protection when that happens, because the art of war states that when you're in that kind of position where you have people like that are trying to misrepresent something that is already misrepresented, and they're trying to spin it so that it looks like something valid that then everyone should pile on to, because they're giving a false signal that this thing is the fullness of Bitcoin when it's really not. Then you retreat and you start talking more about not just strategy, but the esoteric aspects. And that's how you teach people what peer-to-peer really means. And see, I think that's what's really missing. I think that there's an esoteric discussion missing about what peer-to-peer really in its fullness really means. Because if I'm not mistaken, we're trying to appeal to beings that care about other beings. And that's what makes us different than them. And so we have to be smarter than them by knowing when to pull back a little bit and say, no, this is a peer-to-peer horizontal discussion. This has nothing to do whatsoever with the influencers and the controllers that are all about the vertical system. And we have to go into a little bit more education with people about the difference between that vertical control system and the peer-to-peer system that exists infinitely, truly infinitely on the horizontal, which is the stations of the heart. And so you can pull back without giving up any territory by starting to appeal to those that you want to understand what's the difference between original Bitcoin and the modified Bitcoin. You can certainly use the Epstein connection to explain to people how they split off the computing power, and that's how they made it into essentially a fiat. But there are other things that still have that computing power associated with it because we're still committed to peer-to-peer. And so we can, not give up territory, but retreat when they're being desperate. And that's what I see. I see them being desperate and trying to spin something so that those that are still committed to the modified version of it are like, oh, that's really threatening to the powers that be. Well, then I'll pour more into that. And what we need to be doing is getting really refined in our message about how that modified Bitcoin is different than what is being offered by BSV, which is the fullness of Bitcoin. And I've read the white paper now and I'm getting it. Okay. And also appeal to things like what is the baseline pattern that the original was built on, right? Which is, from my understanding, the flower of life, which people can get. They can get that and go, oh, okay, that's a computing pattern, right? And I've had many people reach out to me and say, so what did you mean when you said that it's a supercomputer of human creativity? What did you mean by that? How does that work in the original Bitcoin system? We need to flesh that out. We need to help them understand that, right? And I come at this from a totally esoteric point of view that was trained in protection. So I think that Raf is absolutely correct when he says there might be a time when you have to sort of pull back from public discussion about this, right? And focus on other things that help people understand the kind of relationship that Satoshi was attempting to manifest between the human creativity system and a monetary system that reflects that. And that's what I have to bring to the table is let's focus on helping people understand the original so that then they can really understand how what these people are pumping, especially the spin doctors, is different than that. Thank you for letting me speak. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here and for lending your mind to this endeavor. And I truly believe that people like you are like the true vessels for this technology. People who have done the work, like I can tell you've done the work. I know Casey has done the work. I know Gavin's done the work. We're all doing the work in our own way, right? But because someone like you gets it right away.
Yeah, Spam, I want to just tell you that's my favorite part about Bitcoin is I feel like it's restoring the heart-to-heart connection that we can have with each other. So you describe that very beautifully and makes me really feel connected to you. So thank you for being here. And Gavin, if it's okay with you, can we go over to Todd and then I'll give it back to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even remember what I put my hand up for. But yeah, I sort of second that. I remember during the lockdowns and that certain people, if they had an adversarial mindset and went out looking for a fight, then they found a fight. But if you, just sort of put your own little shield up around you and just still operated with a positive attitude, things would just kind of fall in place. Like I went into this bakery just up the road, and you're supposed to sign in and wear a mask and such. And I walk in there, and there's, it was all going down and having a big argument, and someone storms out, and then I walk in, and the lady's like, "Oh, they were so rude. They wouldn't wear a mask and they wouldn't sign in." And I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe they were just having a bad day or something." Like some people just, I don't know, a bit confrontational or something like that. And she's just talking to me totally normally, without a mask on and without having signed in. But the person before me, seemed to want to go and have the fight, and so it came to them. So that's generally how I like to do things, rather than consider it, a struggle. For everything we're trying to do is find the way that it's easy and fun, and you're just activated, and then you're just doing things towards it, and building up a portfolio, like your proof of work. And as we all do that, and we think about adding value to one another, the network effect just kind of builds like that. And there's only so much I learned so much by listening to other people talk and that. But the talking has to be either adding value, or to be part of your strategy, where that's your proof of work, is the content that you've created, and the story you're weaving, and the audience you're attracting to build that up. But yeah, I don't know. I've had like several sort of out there experiences or whatever that just sort of suggested to me that like it's already a sealed deal, and the aim of the game is just to sit back and enjoy watching the greatest show unfold, and not to be like passive in that, like, but to take confidence in the fact, like I would say that we've already won. And the way that we've already won is because there's only what's the the verse about it's easier for thread the eye of a needle than to make it into the narrow gate, or something like that. I think it's a bit like that with even just the scaling solution for a distributed technology like this. It seems like as you move higher up in levels of infrastructure, there's only specific patterns which will work to support such a ubiquitous layer in this is a layer for data integrity, a layer for, if you look at the sort of, there's like a knowledge pyramid. When you have data at the bottom, then information, then knowledge, then wisdom. This is adding an integrity layer around that data. And so there doesn't need to be more than one. There really can't be more than one, because you're recreating the same problem that Bitcoin solved, which is, if you've got 5 different ledgers, which is the data integrity layer, how do you reconcile between those 5 different ledgers at the deepest level? And this is a technology that sits down in the, well, it touches all layers of the networking stack, and eventually you'll see that if the nodes are super incentivized to have the lowest latency as possible, and all economic value is being exchanged on the network, all data is being timestamped and logged, then the rewards back for those nodes are going to be phenomenal, but the competition will be extreme. And so you may find that it becomes economically viable to create a straight line of, I think Japan just did, what was it, like petabit per second fiber, so you put that between something and it actually reduces, when I was saying before about information trying to be consolidated and related to each other with the shortest latency and distance. That's what's happening with Bitcoin, is the incentives are so deeply embedded into the system that we will get optimizations around all of our communications networks. We'll get optimizations around the energy usage of all the infrastructure that supports it. We'll get optimization around all of the power plants and such. So a power plant, they are designed to run best at like 100% capacity. They're less efficient when they're running at a lower rate, but then they have to balance that with how much demand there is. They don't want to just be blowing off demand into the grid. So if you can have a power plant then that's designed to operate at 100% capacity, and then it mines in the surplus, and then you have this market force which says, oh, there's a peak demand now for electricity, and so you go, oh, well, it's not worth my while to run these hashing machines now. So you wind the hashing machines back down. But those hashing machines, because of the way that the Bitcoin system works with the double hash, and that they only need to be past the 80-byte headers to hash, you can actually have the hashing machines at the source of hydroelectric power or whatever, somewhere remote, crushing that that task. And then if the dam dries up, oh yeah, we don't we're not mining at the moment, or like it starts to create these perfect supply demand equilibrium functions at multiple levels of our infrastructure stack, networking, energy usage, and then the data becomes good, garbage in, garbage out with the models. But if you've got data that's like, oh, here's the provenance, this is when this data was measured into existence, and this is where it came from. Here's the serial number of the the sensor that received that thing. Here's the chain of custody as it's passing down. It's just one input into a giant like actuarial model, which is what risk is quantified by, all the statistics and probabilities of a bad thing happening, that then insurance is based on. And then insurance is what allows, underwrites investment in hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure projects, bridges, roads, all the stuff that, lets us move more effectively, like the transfer value effectively around the country, and the goods and everything that we've created. So I totally agree with what Raf was saying, that it's everywhere. And Craig says that in that 2013, like that, the Bitcoin doco or whatever that, was filmed. There's 3 parts to it on YouTube, and they say, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is, it's everything, and it really is. And we're so early to that. Like, this is a technology that's future proofed for 100 years, plus, and who knows where it will change, but it's going to be a foundation that the next generation will build on, that kind of thing. But excuse me.
Thank you, Todd. All right, let's go to one last hand up. We got the Green Frog.
Thanks for having me up, Gavin.
Yeah.
I have a problem with, I like Todd. Todd seems like an excellent gentleman, very knowledgeable technology-wise. But when he makes comments of "we've already won," I've got a big problem with that, right? I've been in this space for many years now. I feel like I've grown old in this space. I've tested Twitch, I've tested Tree Chat, I've participated in BSV as much as I can to try to understand, and I understand where he's coming from. But the fact to say that we've already won, I think it's a defeatist mentality, because that's what guarantees defeat, right? If you look at the multi-chain world that's happening right now, for God's sakes, XRP's case just went, was finally over after 3 years, right? So there's gonna be a lot of changes. Trump's making these, significant fundamental changes that allows for this multi-chain world to exist, right? To say we've already won, I think, is a wrong thing to do. Build something, build a unicorn, for God's sake, right? Show the people that it works before saying something along those lines, just because you think technically, and this is not an offense on Todd, but just because you could think technically, that's the best sort of use case, right? It isn't. People are other chains are developing and growing this thing, and you might say scalability is the only metric that you follow, but in reality, these things will evolve into a much more scalable things, right? Maybe it's not a proof of work system that wins out, right? And the verticals are already being lined up, right?
I know nobody likes when I say this, but where do the patents come in that scenario?
The way I see it, first of all, Casey, happy birthday. And it was your birthday.
Thank you.
The way I see it, when you're in a monetary system change, right? The laws of these patents, even though we've followed them for many, many years, right, get buried in legal purgatory for many, many years, right? Maybe enough time to let winners come out enough where they become too big to fail and everybody's on board, whether you think it's not efficient or not, or it's not fair or not, right? When we have a monetary system change, it's for all the marbles. None of all these stuff matters, right? I lived in the Middle East for many years, right? I've been in the banking sector, right? And when I talk to a Western banker, central banker, right, it's quite different from a Middle Eastern central banker, right? Because there's this still notion of doing what it takes to enrich the lives of those nations that need enriching, right? So we may think, well, that's unfair. It's a different game, even though the rules of the game aligns every banker to somewhat do something similar as far as a moral sort of guide in how they do things. But it doesn't work like that in the real world, right? That's the brochure thing, right, to do. But when it comes down to it, they need to do what they need to get done, right? And that's their role. That's the same way I see all these multi-chains happening. As much as you guys don't think it's fair that BSV is getting buried on all these things, right? And we're the winners because we're gonna scale this stuff. The world just doesn't work like that. It's an idealistic sort of mindset that people need to get out their heads until until they figure out. Show me a unicorn on the BSV chain. Show that it works. The fact that nothing works, nothing, right? Nothing's been shown to the people, to the masses, to even have some interest in this stuff, right? I'm not talking from a price perspective. Really, something that works instead of this theoretical stuff. Then make the argument that we may have already won. But hearing that now, man, I've heard this all from every
Plenty of
single
technology on
protocol.
BSB that works, dude. I've seen and doesn't work anywhere else. I can just sit here and talk all night about technology that
Nobody cares,
works.
Raphael, right?
But
Nobody
that's
cares
fine.
whether it works
Yeah,
or
but you
not,
have to
right?
understand that you have to understand that what moves this world is not technology but attention. And the war here has been for attention. And so that's why BSV has been delisted, censored, blacklisted, and it's just part of the story of Bitcoin. And obviously you're here because the topic interests you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be thinking about it.
Of
But
course.
it's
Listen,
an
I know,
it's a
like
very
I
least
said,
a very interesting topic for you to be here. And the thing is that the technology does work, and we have testament of seeing how networks out there are trying to copy BSV as much as possible, in
So
spite
what?
of them attacking it so much. What do
So
you mean?
what, Raphael? You're not listening, man. I'm telling you, yeah, sure, it does work, but has any
Okay, does it work or
applic
does it not work? What is it? Because now you're contradicting yourself.
again, don't play word mumbo jumbo. It's plain and simple, man. If it does work, we should be BSV should be dominating every metric out there and being adopted
It
globally
is.
as
It
a
is. No,
standard,
no,
right?
no, no, no. This is what you have to understand is that when we talk about adoption, um, adoption as it has happened in the crypto world and with BTC, we're talking about the world as is, accepting that which doesn't disturb it, doesn't disrupt it. BSV, as a technology, as everything that it is, will never be accepted by the world. You have to understand that.
I
The game theory that BSV proposes to the world is not one to be embraced by the exchanges. Anything, the nature of BSV is something that is in complete opposition of having exchanges, because BSV itself is the exchange.
I
And
understand. I understand your
so,
argument, right?
so in order for BSV, to actually blow up and go viral, it has to discover from within itself aptitudes and abilities that cannot be performed anywhere else. We're very early in that. Just now we're about to have a first node of Bitcoin that is adequate for a scalable Bitcoin BSV. Dude, you know how ridiculous it is in BSV that, let me tell you how ridiculous it has been. Because people have been eager to appease the crypto world as is, a lot of the small blocker mindset carried over to the point that we have token protocols that require for the entire blockchain to be indexed. It's not till recently, in the past couple, no more than a year ago, that we have two actual big blocker token protocols. We have Bolt from the guy from Ireland, from Freddie, and we have TSL1 from Stefan, Bearded Papa. These are actual token protocols that actually, where you don't need to index the whole blockchain to do anything. So it's ridiculous. For example, I'll give you an example. We had ordinals on BTC, so people in BSV said, "Well, we can do ordinals better than them. We can order transactions and order things better than them. So we'll do it on one sat ordinals." But it's that mindset that carried over, which required for people to have to index the entire blockchain to do anything on that token protocol, which is ridiculous. And then when we actually try to flex it to the limit, then we had with OBJK, we ended up having to wait. We literally almost, like, the blockchain was like it just, because the indexing of the protocol itself was the problem. It's not that the blockchain was incapable. It was the indexing, to the point that the guys that created the one-sat ordinals protocol had to come up with a market-driven incentive structure so that these things can actually happen, that you pay for your indexing or some shit like that. But that is not even necessary here. You can do those dumb things, but they're not necessary. So, when we see a BSV, when BSV takes off, is when people start actually playing with the mature Bitcoin. And finally, we have a mature token protocols. Great. We have a mature understanding of the Metanet. We finally have a mature node. We actually have two now with Galaxy, Terra node and Galaxy. So we're at the beginning, dude. We're at the beginning.
Sure. The problem, Raphael, with what you're saying is that that's great and dandy, and people will test this stuff, right? As far as usage is concerned, right, there's hardly anybody using this stuff, right? So to say we're early there, sure, that's fine. Maybe some days people will use it and so on. But the problem that I see is there's no incentives for people to use it, right? It's the same argument. Why did Facebook lose all those devs to the crypto bros, right? It's because the incentives moved from the talented people to program, protocols and so forth, right? The same thing is developing. However, when you think about BSV, it's really people that are playing with this stuff. And what what tends to happen in real life, it's great that people find great toys and I'm not saying it. I'm a BSV holder, right? A small amount, because I understand that the world doesn't work on idealism, right? You see it differently, and I appreciate you. But I think the battle happens the way you also see it with all these privacy coins, right? So we don't move into a scalable, um, you know, proof of work system. What ends up happening is we go to multi-chain, and people like you and me will stay within the privacy sector, and sort of fight our own fights within that, right? And that's how this game plan goes, right? Unless the world suddenly crashes, and there's a massive need for one ledger, right? And black swans happen left and right, and one ledger, then maybe there could be a chance that something like BSV comes in. But here's what's happening. Stable coins are happening. They're going to flood the system with more multi-chain stuff, right? The stable coins are going to be the extension of the dollar, and they're going to be able to do it. They're going to, even though inflation's going to be there, they're just going to pump, you know, disposable income to the people in here, right? And make them forget. Yeah, I saw Craig Wright's post today. It reminds me that's really how it works with inflation, right? They make people forget, right?
Okay,
Until
so
something major happens,
let me
right?
answer
I don't believe any of this stuff,
what you
man.
just said. I'm gonna answer it to you by telling you a story. It was 2008 around that time, and I was in the Prius of the Emperor of Bitcoin. I was hanging out with Daniel Craywood, 2008, before Bitcoin came out. We were driving around, and we were talking about solutions to the problem of government coercion. And pretty much I was like, dude, like what can we fucking do? You know, the problem of, always having to be a coercive middleman in everything you do in life. And his answer was pretty simple. Just because the solution doesn't exist now does not mean that it cannot be created tomorrow. The answer to everything you just said, my friend, is called creativity. And you just gave the world a palette, a playground to be the most creative you could ever want to be, where I could subsidize billions of transactions with just a couple $100, give everyone in the world access to the most badass supercomputer, Bitcoin, where they can just interact with it in any way they want to buy, sell, share, whatever they want. Okay. So we do have the technology in order to fulfill that incentive, that economic incentive. All we just need is for just one person to come up with one idea. It doesn't have to be super viral. It doesn't have to go super viral, but just for it to go viral enough to catch the attention of someone else who is also creative and can create the next idea. It's all about momentum, my friend. And honestly, you sound to me like a cooler. I described a cooler earlier in this call, and that's what you're sounding to me like, because in reality, there's nothing here that's stopping anyone in the world from programming whatever they want on Bitcoin and changing the world tomorrow. We can literally have hyper Bitcoinization later on this afternoon.
Right on. Good job.
No, we can't.
Hold on,
We
hold
can't
on,
have
hold
hyper
on.
Bitcoin.
Hold on. We're not doing that, partner. You're gonna step down. Let me go to Todd. What's up, my man? You're up. Todd, I'm gonna unmute. If you could have our friend okay, go ahead, Todd. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I disagree with the statements from sort of frog avatar, whatever. I don't know what that name is supposed to be, but I think he was the chap that interrupted me the other day and said, the future is multi-chain. We're going to do that, but to suggest so to me indicates a lack of understanding about like the fundamental physics of the network, of scaling, of security, of latency. Like, to build a world system on it, sure, it might look like it is going that way at the moment, but when you look at the people that are guiding that build, they're all clueless. None of them have any idea how to actually like build something that's going to last for more than a couple of years. They're just trying to sort of implement a system, get on the newest trend, and they're going to be a whole range of failures as they scale out. You can't scale a multi-chain system. It's like saying, like, you know, oh, my I'm going to build a Ferrari around three 60 horsepower engines that are sort of like, you know, connected together with belts and, you know, some cogs and stuff like that. Like, it's not performant. It's not secure. It's the nature of the system is that it will converge on one. But the same thing happened with the internet protocol. You would have been on the fax groups back in the day saying, no, Xerox is the future is multi-network. Xerox will have its own one, and whatever other, you know, telecommunications network will have their own intranet, and will just be an intranet. But they need a settlement layer that is standardized, that is performant, that, you know, crunches the billions of transactions a second, the trillions of transactions a second even. You know, there's supposed to be 100 billion devices coming online by 2030 with the IoT. They're not going to work on a multi-chain setup. It's you can say that, oh, that's the way it's going now, but it's, you know, evidence doesn't support you. You aren't bringing any examples to the case except for this is the way it is, and so it can't be any different in the future. So I just wanted to
No, it's well said. No, I appreciate it, Todd. And you're one of the smartest and most informed Bitcoiners out there, and there's no doubt about it. So we appreciate you sharing your wisdom and knowledge and actually experience on this. So I really want to wind this down and close it out. So last closing thoughts, you guys, you want to add, and I'd love to close it out and wrap. It's Casey's birthday. It's probably almost midnight where she's at. Casey, thank you. Happy birthday.
Happy
Really
birthday.
Appreciate it. Great discussion. Doge, Profit, Cam, Raf, you know, awesome freaking talk. Spam, I'm in San Francisco area, so San Francisco Bay Area. If you're in Northern California, we could connect sometime. So definitely love to hear what you had to say there regarding the horizontal layer. That's like very advanced that you even understand that horizontal. That's what the original Bitcoin is, the horizontal. So. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I want to say, just to close it out,
please,
I do not believe that this will be empowered fully until the love of all beings is fully encoded in our intention. And when that becomes a topic of discussion that is very real for us, that separates us from the spin doctors, then we will have a discussion that is real and empowered by our Creator. And this realm of exchanging energy in the form of money will be empowered when we are clear that our intention is about love of all beings. And that's what I have to bring to the table. And when we're ready to talk about that, I will contribute.
We're ready.
But
We're
it
ready.
is about that.
Graham, I just want to tell you that the post that I got censored for was for sharing a song called One Unyielding Soul. And it just really activates the heart of a being to listen to that, because it's a rally cry for where we need to go individually and collectively. And I even mentioned the Maharishi effect in the statement that I made with that song, because that's their greatest fear, is when we come back to the heart and connect with each other in that coherent way. So you are on the money, and I just really am grateful that you're here now as another woman in this space. So thank you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you.
Right on. All right. Thank you. And Casey, thank you for hosting. Happy birthday. I hope all your dreams come true. Thank you, all the speakers. We'll do it again some other time. I'm going to wrap. See you at the top.
Happy birthday.
Night.